late. That's awesome. I'm so bad at all of this. Oop, what is that? I have a new follower. Sweet. Thank you, Scummy Bee. Hopefully I can bring decent content to the world. If not, it's an excuse for me to drink bourbon for 3 hours. The stream, well, this stream has just started. You missed the stream earlier of me just clickety clacking, but this one just started. Actually, I have a timer. I have some rules posted here because it seemed like something we should do, and let's start that timer. And then I'm going to open another Word document off to the side to start recording suggestions, requests, ideas. Otherwise, feel free to ask questions, whatever. This is really just an opportunity for me to hang out with all of you and a good excuse for me, not that I need one, to enjoy some bourbon. Good evening, Lead. Happy to see you here again. This also gives everybody an opportunity to listen to my very noisy and awesome mechanical keyboard that I love so very much. And, oops, blank screen. No, where'd my rules go? Sorry, guys, I opened one too many documents. There we go. Hello, who are you? Who am I? My name is Jonathan Smith. I am the author of the Dungeon Core novels Bone Dungeon and Infernal Bones. I also write the web serial that is Dungeon Core Online on Royal Road. And Taryn asks, what type of bourbon do I have? I got a bottle of Buffalo Trace. Just got into the whole bourbon world a few months ago. Still trying to figure out what I prefer, what I like. Buffalo Trace is currently the best bourbon that I have had. Um, Underneath it, I like Four Roses Single Barrel, which is a little more affordable than Buffalo Trace. And then after that, actually was Heaven Hill Bottled and Bond. Um, so yeah, I definitely enjoy bourbon. When I was younger and in the Marines, I definitely just kind of drank whatever liquor was available to me. Now that I've grown a little older, I'm starting to enjoy more the um, just nature and process of like sitting down and enjoying drink. I'm not drinking to get buzzed or sloshed. Like I'm drinking to enjoy the flavor of the liquor, and bourbon definitely offers that experience. So, but again, Buffalo Trace, like I said, is the best one I've had so far, but it's also the most expensive one. All right, 1-2 blue. What we are doing here today, I came up with this random idea. Who knows if it's even going to work? The stream, like I said, offers me a chance to interact with um, readers, writers, fans, just anybody, the internet in general. I'm taking requests. It's kind of like a pool them all together, and then we can just kind of select them. And then in 12 minutes now, we'll take one of those requests and I will write real time a quick flash fiction style story for you guys. I'm really open, Taryn, to kind of whatever people want to suggest. I've written some crazy shit in the past, so I'm not really one to shy away from anything. This is really an opportunity for me to just kind of goof off and have fun once again with everybody, and at the same time, it gives us the opportunity to make some really strange, weird, or fun stories. And I think it'd be kind of, I don't know, but I think some people might be interested in, seeing a story get written super quick right in front of them and watching the tale come to life right then and there. Do, do, do. So, like I said, anyone titled The Horny Scrap. Oh, Taryn. All right, so I will write that down for our suggestions here. The Horny Scrat. All right, well, so we have one suggestion, and we have 10.5 minutes to go. Hopefully, like I said, I've posted this around a couple different places. We'll see what type of viewership we get and who all comes. Like I said, I didn't really have much of a advance given to the world about this, but I do plan on making this a weekly thing every Thursday night, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is just a really good block for me that I can set aside every week to do this. The whole reason I broke open the Buffalo Trace for today was just because since it's the first one, I use it as an excuse to break into my good bourbon. Otherwise, my go-to bourbon right now that I drink on nights that I feel like I want to drink, sit down, relax, and all that jazz is Chapter 8. Once that bottle's gone, I'll probably pick up some Larceny and give that a try because those are bourbons that are a lot more affordable. They are a lower proof though. They're about 80 proof, so 40% liquor, well, alcohol content. The higher proofs, the batch strengths and everything, well, the cask strengths, I think is the correct terminology. They get a little more pricey because obviously it's a stronger drink. And I'm going to take off my stylish kimono just because it is kind of warm in South Carolina tonight, which I am all for. We've had rainy weather the past God knows how many weeks, which has just made it miserable outside and dreary, waking up watching just gray skies and rain. Right on. I would try to say that name, but I would butcher it in so quickly. But thanks for the follow, and we will get to writing here in 8 minutes and 40 seconds. Currently, we only have one recommendation / suggestion coming from Taryn. M, I'm pretty positive I know who you are. And the title is The Horny Scrat. And we will take that as we go. Requests, yep. Give me really request anything, story idea, title. Old farm ox that gets into some bourbon one day. I will write that one down here. And then I am, like I said, opening this up not just for flash fiction style stories. It's Miss Regret. Oh man, I need to. Oh, damn it! I don't have my dice with me. I need to get the next session. So next week I'll have a set of dice with me, so then we can roll for requests and really kind of randomize it back up. I guess I'll pull up a dice roller and set some values to our requests and roll it that way for now, though. But next time I'll definitely make sure I have some dice with me. And then I am going to put down the name of the suggester who's suggesting these ideas so that when I write the story, I can, at the end, mention who requested it in the chat on what day when I post these. From Reddit. Wait, is there a Reddit thing going for this? Like, I did not make a Reddit post. Is somebody cool enough to have made a Reddit post about me? Now I'm going to Reddit. I should have totally posted on Reddit. I don't know Reddit. Oh, it's a writing prompt sum. Well, that's a little less exciting. I thought somebody had like made a Reddit post for me. I was like, huh, aha, I'm a real writer. Senpai noticed me. Ah, darn. Maybe someday. I'll get there. If not for the writing skills, obviously for the hair. And I'm just going to lazily copy and paste that one. and then I'll post my playlist that I listen to when I write when we get to that stage, which is going to be in about just under 6 minutes here, because for obviously Twitch reasons, I'm not going to stream music because I am super new to Twitch and I have no idea how all of that works, and I don't want to get in trouble with the Twitch overlords. So I'll just post the link to the the playlist I listen to as I clickety clack away. If you guys don't want to just hear the keyboard clicking and me sitting here awkwardly making words appear, you can jam out to some Lindsey Sterling with me and other things. I'm also hopping through Discord as we do this. Make the webcam bigger, can't see you. How do I do that? You guys are making me. See you. I don't know how to do that. Ooh, maybe. Let's see. Nope, record video, stream layout, change capture, edit layout. There we go. Boop. Haha! Is that better? What? Save. Can't see you drag the corner. He's an oval. There might be an edge toggle. Did that work? Can you see me better? Better appreciate my glorious hair. Yes, yes, that is. I mean, it's kind of washed out just because I'm in a brighter room. I don't have an official office space yet and probably won't for the duration of this year. I'm currently living in the in-laws basement until I have earned enough money to actually get a house again. Because when I left my missile job in Colorado, I obviously lost most of my income and am now just a struggling writer. Thank you for the follow, Fel. Yes, missile job. I used to be a ballistic missile analyst. I did 8 years in the Marines as an intel analyst and then 2 years in the government as a ballistic missile expert. And now I am a full-time author working on my journeyman title for bladesmithing and got certified as a welder because I like metalworking. Back with food, nice. All right, we have just under, 2.5 minutes to go until we decide on our first topic and we decide if I can actually make this happen. Currently, we have a total of 4 different topics, meaning we will pull up a D4 random number generator and get this show on the road in just under 2 minutes. I'm at a record 9 viewers, guys. I've made it big. Show stats, frame rate, average upload speed. Someday I'll be a real boy. We'll get there. This is just the beginning. I mean, and it works out for everyone in chat at least, because the less viewers there are, the higher the probability that your story gets selected. This also showcases the fact that I'm an extreme pantser when it comes to writing. I don't outline. I don't plan. I literally usually just sit down and start clickety-clacking, and whatever the hell comes out of my mind comes out of my mind, which is how we end up with weird shit like the story that is Dungeon Core Online. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Stop, reset, minimize. Well, 1, 2, blue. Instead of a story, could you write? Yes, if your suggestion gets selected, which let's bring this over here for everybody to see. All right, so the suggestions here, we have The Horny Scrat, suggested by Taryn M., an old farm ox that gets into some bourbon one day, from 1 2 Blue, Bladesmith's Regret, Lighthouse, and the name I'm not going to attempt because I will slaughter it. As a bandit reaches for the handle of one of your many cursed weapons, you realize that they must not have read the sign outside your shop. Let us see which story is chosen. Roll dice online. D4. 1. 1. Obviously, just top the order. 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's see what happens. Result is 4. Alrighty then. This is our well, that was a terrible idea. Yeah, it's still pretty bad. Okay. Anyways, so the winner of the first round is, as a bandit reaches for the handle on one of your many cursed weapons, you realize that they must not have read the sign outside your shop. Alrighty then. Now then, obviously how this ends up going, we're going to open a new Word document here, is, like I said, I'm going to shoot for a story right around 1,000 words. That is what flash fiction is, and it's not a hard guideline that I'm going to hold myself to, but it's just for the purpose of this stream, it lets me get more stories out for you guys, because obviously this is set aside for a 3-hour window. So the quicker I write, and then the more topics we can generate, the more stories, the more content for everybody else, which I think is just a fun situation for everybody. So I'm going to take the topic, put it over here, make sure everybody can see that. And then it's up to you guys. I can definitely read the story aloud after it's written. And then I will obviously post a link, like I said. For now, I'll put them up on my Patreon, but I'm not going to put them behind a paywall. So anyone can go to the Patreon and see free content there as well. Because the Patreon otherwise is usually for Dungeon Core Online, a exclusive LitRPG called Dickin' Around that I'm writing, and then some advanced chapters of Bone Dungeon 3. But otherwise, I will share with you all my playlist and get to writing, because that is what we are truly here for. 12 a.m. Ooh, my apologies. Time zones, gotta love them. That is my playlist. I'll take a drink and then let's get ready to write. So good. What's up, Xander? Shop names suck to come up with. Alrighty then. So, um, I'll give you guys a quick moment. Do you guys want me to read this story back to you? Again, all of these are obviously rough drafts, but this was our first attempt at the night. We'll see what you guys think. All right, and then we will once again start the polls. I think going forward, after each story is written, probably another 10 minutes to set up a poll for ideas. That gives everybody time to grab additional drinks if they want, think up some ideas, chat about the story that we wrote previously. But let me grab a well-earned drink, I suppose, and then I will get to reading this probably about 900 and, well, we'll see. We'll see how long it is. 953 word short story, well, flash fiction that was based off of the prompt. As a bandit reaches for the handle of one of your many cursed items, you realize that they must not have read the sign outside your shop. I guess I did take some leeway. I replaced bandit with rogue. My apologies. But same diff, right? And here we go. Running a shop for magical weapons wasn't a new concept. After all, when you were located in a major trading city like I was, there was plenty of demand. However, because of the size of the city, there was quite a bit of supply as well, which is why I decided to do something a little different. You see, when adventurers came into town, they almost always went to the top supplier of magical goods, Mr. Wonderful's Amazing Spectacular Shenanigans. Don't ask. But for some reason, adventurers loved the name of that shop. Next, there were the mega markets, like Wally's Wonderful Weirdities and Alex's. Just Alex's. Competing with them was a fool's task. So, when I told my family I needed some money to start my own, I needed a good plan. The plan was cursed objects. Now I know what you're thinking. Cursed items? No one in their right mind would buy cursed items. And you're right. No one in their right mind would. But they would pay to have the curses removed. They would also pay to have problems dealt with. So, what was my shop, you ask? Well, it was a special kind of shop. A shop for dealing with the riffraff, the less than honest shoppers, the would-be rogues, thieves, and really that guys of the adventurer world. My shop, problem-solving items, was the shop every other magic owner, and quite a few paladins, loved, especially because no one ever stopped to read the fine print. Items on display are cursed. Inquire inside for non-cursed items. Hint, there are none. The fine print was added as a thought from my father. He wanted to make sure some of the higher level adventurers didn't have a way to come after the shop, because you would be amazed how many rogues tried to have their warlock buddies come up afterwards and demand I pay for the damages. Nah, no way am I paying for the mistakes of their greedy, foolish friends' illicit deeds. A little extra legalese, and the innocent shopkeeper is safe from it all. So, that was the idea for my shop, and let me tell you, just an hour after was I opened, business was booming. And by booming, I mean booming. The money I received from my parents for my shop went to purchasing a lot, and I mean a lot, of cursed items. People sold off their cursed items at extremely low rates. And because I was a skilled enchanter and specialized in removing curses, these items caused me no problems at all. So the 1,000 gold my father had given me went to purchasing what I decided I could probably earn 100,000 gold with. The bait was purchased, so the day I opened, I set the trap. The first item I showcased was a simple looking dagger. Really, it wasn't that impressive, other than the small black gem that sat within the hilt. The dagger, though, was a dagger of hunger. Whoever wielded the dagger would be overcome with a constant magical hunger. They would never be able to sate their hunger and could not remove the curse unless they Know of a high-level enchanter who can remove curses for them? For a fee? In other words, me. Next, and the item that ended up being stolen first, was my bag of elderly flatulence. Honestly, this one was bought purely for toilet humor. If there was one thing I knew about adventurers, it was their appreciation of good old-fashioned toilet humor. The bag was, in all essence, a functional bag of holding, a high-quality item that everyone sought after. It looked and acted like one too. The catch was that whoever touched it suddenly aged by 40 years and was cursed with elderly farts. You know, the kind, the awkward ones that your grandparents let out, perhaps a bit too much prune juice or whatnot, that just smelled of death and embarrassment. So, needless to say, I was there, minding my own business, trying to sell my wares, when a group of adventurers came strolling up. You could tell they were rather new, still bickering with each other, the paladin trying to keep their berserker friend from beating up random people, while their rogue darted to and fro, stealing all the things he could see. People in town knew of their types, but sadly, what were we to do? We couldn't physically stop them, and their special skills and gear usually would allow them to outclass us anyways if we tried. I watched the rogue spot my special bag, and he had the audacity to make eye contact with me and wink. He then moved slowly towards me, making some strange theme music of his own as he did. I'm sure he thought he was being super sneaky. Well, all sense of stealth was lost as he picked up the bag. His lithe early 20s frame suddenly became a bent over late 60s. The bag he had triumphantly stashed on his side latched tightly onto him, and as he looked at me, his eyes covered by thin, graying hair, I could see the horror growing on his face. And then the pinnacle moment came. He let out a loud fart, followed by another, and another, as he struggled to hobble away from me, grasping his stomach. Quickest 100 gold I've ever earned. And that was just my first hour. There's a reason I quickly became one of the wealthiest business owners in town, and I'll tell you what it is. I took advantage of how those darned rogues thought and the apologetic nature their party always had. The end. We will save that in our folder that I've got made for this. I'm setting them up 12 March 2020. Oh, and this one is going to be named prompt 1. Save. All right. So that was it. That was our ship. Very first flash fiction opportunity of books and bourbon. I can pull up the Word document. I will remove that from our listing. I will leave our other 3 opportunities still up there for reminders. That is The Horny Scrat, a poem that is Old Farm Ox that gets into some bourbon one day, and then Bladesmith's Regret. I will leave those 3 up there. If you guys have any other requests, please list them in the comments section, and we will take a 10-minute relaxation period to just kind of chat about the story, throw out some more suggestions. Feel free to ask me questions if you guys want. And in 10 minutes, we will begin on our second story. Timer. Reset. I'm broken. How do I? There we go. Pretty shady, Joe. I might end up in a. I loved Infernal Bones. It's rare to find a good LitRPG series with likable characters. Thank you, Golden Nuggets. Definitely loving my Elemental Dungeon series. I don't know if you know. I mention it occasionally. So if you're in the Discords or on the comments sections that I post, BD3 is being written right now. The first 3 books following Ryan are going to be a trilogy. So this book is going to wrap that trilogy up. But I do have plans for additional books in my Elemental Dungeon world, which is why it is the Elemental Dungeon series and not just the Bone Dungeon trilogy. California girls suck up. Wait, suck up. All right, great. California girls. So a dungeon core that has a Cali girl personality. Is that what you're going for? Z Twister 89. Yep. Okay. Cool. I've got that added to the list. Oh yeah, back to Elemental Dungeon stuff. I'm also working on a tabletop role-playing game, so D&D style game for my Elemental Dungeon world. I'm actually in the process of working on all of the mechanics for that. I've actually got a lot of them put together already. Got my combat system set up. I've got different low-level items and everything. I just have to finish making silver-tiered clash options and then making the bronze and silver tiered rule set for the dungeons before I'll be playtesting that. And then there's a rumor eventually we might get some dungeon mob cards. And I also know that Portal is working on t-shirts and there will soon be Skeletal Fight Club t-shirts available for all of those interested. Yes, I break SFC's rules all the time. I'm terrible at it. Costco themed dungeon. Added to the list. Um, I I do actually have the like rules set up for dungeon mobs to like actually be a playable card game. It would be really cool as an online card game. I don't have the tools or capabilities or financial means to do that. I am still fighting to even pay all of my monthly bills, so that might be a little ways off. I haven't looked at Tabletop Simulator before. Like I said, for my Elemental Dungeon series TTRPG, I'm making all of that by scratch, so I have like Word documents and Excel sheets and everything put together. Because I am pretty good at Excel. So like for Dungeon Core Online, I actually have it now to where I have the mobs and character stats in there. So when I level them up, it auto adjusts all of their stats for me, which is awesome. So am I working on anything else? BD going to hit. So party. Oh my god, the moth memes, the moth memes. Uh, welcome, chaotic baby beaver. One of my Discord followers. So, am I working on anything else? Yes, I have. Like I said, I'm working on Bone Dungeon 3. I write that Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursdays. Although Whether or not I write on Wednesdays is up in the air because I do DM a Dungeons and Dragons session. So depending on how much work I have to put into that session, I may or may not be able to write that day. On Mondays, I write Dungeon Core Online, which is my web serial that I post on Royal Road. I post on Mondays on my Patreon. They stay, depending on the tier, up to 10 chapters ahead on Royal Road. And then Friday chapters get posted on Royal Road as well. On Fridays, I write Dickin' Around, which is a lit RPG that takes place in my Dungeon Core Online world and actually follows one of the players as they go through the random dungeon. Working on the Elemental Dungeon tabletop role playing game. And I have 2 ideas for 2 new trilogies outside of the Elemental Dungeon world. So as actual like lit RPG type stories, set aside that I've been working around with. But writing wise, I'm predominantly just working on those 3 stories at this moment. Dungeon Core Online just hit 300,000 words. Bone Dungeon 3 just hit about 19,000, and Dicking Around just hit 26,000. And I will be writing Dicking Around tomorrow, which will probably push it closer to 30,000 words. And as for is Ryan going to hit Diamond next book? Well, I don't want to give away any spoilers. However, it is going to be the last book of the trilogy. So take that as you may. And we currently have 2.5 minutes to go with 6 story ideas so far. And I appreciate the hustle on having to try. Like we were inclined to pay Patreon if I could easily read it. I always code it. I want to read Patreon posts, but there's still any work and checking if there's something new. So that is fair. Yeah, like my Royal Road, I just have my Patreon linked to, um, because I felt like Patreon is more respectable to have running than to just have the PayPal donate up there. DCO Online has currently 2,700 followers on it. And my Patreon, I keep everything, open and visible. I try to be as visible with everybody as I can. So my Patreon currently I have 122 followers, and it's pulling in $1,025. Um, Financially, if I could be pulling in about 1,500 a month, that would let me pay all of my bills without any, like, just pay all my bills without having to use my credit card for that. But it would still probably 1,500 still puts me at a little under when it comes to having to buy food and gas and all of that stuff. So 2,000 is really the goal I'm shooting for on Royal Road, which ironically I have like 27, almost 2,800 followers on DCO. So in theory, if everybody just donated $1 a month, I would hit that. And then they're only paying $12 a year for, 2 to 3 books worth of content. But perfect world. It is what it is. I appreciate everything that people have given me so far and all of the support that I receive. Obviously, I wouldn't be able to do this writing full time without the support that everybody gives me. And then obviously there's book sales, but it's the Dungeon Core world. There's not as huge of a following as some of those massive lit RPGs, and I'm still a new name, a new face in it. So I'm not raking in the money like the really big ones, Dakota Crow, James Hunter, Alaron Kong, David, all of them. I am nowhere near their level yet. It'll be nice. That's the goal someday, but not right now. Alrighty then. The timer has ended. Let's go to our dice roller. We are rolling a 6-sided dice this time. Wait, which books did Dakota do? Dakota wrote the Divine Dungeon series and Completionist Chronicles. He is also the founder of Mountaindale Press. And Jerry, Sherry, Terajiri, yep, yep, I butchered that name. But thanks for the follow. Um, alrighty then. So we got a six-sided dice. Let's break out the options here. We have the Horny Scrat from Taryn M, who I think has left the chat. That's slacker. Yep, he left the chat. Go figure. Oh well. We have 1-2 Blues request for a poem about an old farm ox that gets into some bourbon one day. We have Bladesmith's Regret from Lighthouse. California Girls, a stuck-up California Girl Dungeon Core by Z Twister. A Costco-themed dungeon. And then a Party with a Mothman enters the Lightbulb dungeon by mistake. What be happening? We be writing stories and drinking liquor. And by writing stories, I mean clickety-clacking with all of the speed. We have already written a roughly 1,000 word story so far in this stream, and that's not counting the 25 minutes that have been spent with me dicking around and just chatting with everybody. So we're making good time. We got 2 hours left of this. Hopefully I can keep people entertained for that a long time. I doubt it. But we're going to roll some dice. Did it roll? Did we get a 4 again? I don't know if we got a 4 again. You know what? I'm going to refresh this whole thing because I don't know if that was some lag or what happened. I mean, I totally would have been fine writing the stuck up California girl, but I wasn't sure if that was a mishap or not. So here we go. 6-sided dice. Rolling it. Number 5, Costco themed dungeon. All right. So I think I've been into Costco once. I'm assuming that is like the Sam's Club type market where everything is cheap, but there's a lot of it. So it's these massive, massive servings of it, right? So just a cheap, massive wholesale type store. Help me out here, chat. Yes or no? Don't forget the toilet paper is gone. Yeah, it looks like it. Yeah, warehouse. Okay, cool. Bulk store. Got it. Got it. All right. Yeah, I'm not fancy. I think you have to have a membership for Costco. My ass is broke. I don't have memberships from, well, I don't have cable. I pay for Amazon, KU, and like Netflix and Hulu. You know the important things. Oh, and PlayStation so that I can get my gaming on. Like my bourbon, my Buffalo Trace bottle, probably gonna be the only expensive bourbon I buy all year, which is sad because my birthday's coming up next week. Well, next month. All right. Da 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 da. So we are gonna start this song over. I really like it. Let's see if this works for you all. Which song does that pull up? Let's check. Good. Yeah, this is one of my favorite songs on the playlist. Like, I always start when I write with Something Wild, the Lindsey Sterling cover with the song from Pete's Dragon, which was actually a good movie too. But this Who Wants to Live Forever that is on the link right now, is also extremely phenomenal. And I just like Lindsey Sterling in general. She's awesome. Costco themed dungeon. Are you guys ready? Silence. Crickets. There we go. I got one answer. I'm not alone. Alrighty then. I am going to hit play on my playlist and I will get to going. And We will see what I can make happen this time. Let's see what happens. I don't think any of us expected how the last story was going to go. A dungeon. Yep, off to a great start. um, okay, I hate spelling the word adventures. I fuck that word up so much. Alrighty then. For those of you that were jamming out with me, we have just finished up our second prompt, and it is exactly 1,000 words. Technically, without end, we are at 999 words. So, I guess we will set the precedent that, yes, Costco themed dungeon. We will set the precedent that after I finish these stories, I will read the I will read the story off to you. After this one, I am going to step away for about 2 or 3 minutes, and then I will come back. I just have to use the restroom real quick, and then I'll come back, and then we'll start our 10-minute timer. I'll answer any questions. We can chat about the story. But first, I will read to you guys the second story of the night, which, considering we are at an hour and 20 minutes, it looks like we're probably going to get 2 more stories done, maybe even 3 before the night is done. We will see how it goes. But this, at the request of Kelly, who hangs out in Discord, I chat with him on a really regular daily basis, is the Costco themed dungeon. When people think of what it is like to be a dungeon, they usually think of some dark, twisting, terrifyingly dangerous place. And, for the most part, they are correct in that way of thinking. Those were the dungeons of yore. However, Kelly was a little bit of an odd one out, so when she finally became a dungeon, she decided it was finally her time to shine. The first thing she did was get rid of the helpful fairy they sent her, floating around in the soul pool with nothing to do but watch the other dungeons of the world as they tried their best to grow and make a name for themselves. She found all of the fairies really were not helpful. They rarely ever actually had any information to share, and when they did, it was a long, drawn out process. It was almost as if they existed simply for the point of conversation and exposition. Weird. So, yeah, when she found herself pulled from the soul pool, she dismissed her fairy Steve. Immediately, he stuttered and stammered, but after she threatened him with a stalactite to the head, he got the memo and left, leaving her to create her dungeon as she saw fit, completely from scratch. First things first was creating the actual layout of her dungeon. She knew that the moment she awoke in the dungeon, she only had a span of 1 week before the first adventures would be at her dungeon step, and she needed to be ready. As such, in an effort to save time and be completely efficient, she just hollowed out a massive, empty expanse. Like, she did away with the narrow halls and dimly lit pathways. Instead, it was a 200 by 200 square yard floor, well lit and currently empty. Next came the loot. Some might say that was putting the cart before the horse, but everyone knew loot was the most important aspect of a dungeon, and she didn't want to be a dungeon that was known for having bad loot. Scrolling through what she had readily available, though, she felt her heart sink. Starting dungeons really weren't given a lot of loot to go work with. Weren't. Some copper and silver coins, and then common items like basic weapons and armor, and some crafting supplies. Really. It was crazy to think some dungeons actually made it to their final tier, if all they had to start out with were some rusty daggers, spoons, and the occasional bit of raw meat. However, not one to be easily dismayed, Kelly took what she had and decided how best to use it, which wasn't to hoard her items and be sparse with them. No, Kelly was going a quantity over quality approach. Adventurers that visited her dungeon were in for a huge surprise. With that taken care of, the tough decisions made, Kelly opted for her dungeon mobs. Every starting dungeon was given the option of 5 different basic mobs: kobolds, goblins, furry creatures, skeletons, and slimes. Slimes were just messy in her opinion, and skeletons really weren't all that inviting. She was eyeing goblins, but she knew that race was known for its hoarding tendencies, which went counterproductive to her plans. That left her with kobolds and furry animals. And being that her ex had gone with kobolds, Kelly picked furry animals. It had been overdone, but she was going to make it work, darn it. For the furry animals, basic mobs included rabbits, foxes, deer, and wolf pups. She selected the rabbits for her main mob type, but spread out a group of foxes to help keep the rabbits in line. Over them, she assigned a few wolf pups, just to keep order in her massive dungeon. With the mobs spawned and milling about, she realized she had a new problem. The openness of her dungeon was too open. With all the mobs, there was utter chaos. So, in order to fix that, she established row upon row of simple wooden type walls. The bunnies were all lined up down the aisles, nice and neat for the adventurers. Behind them were the foxes, and behind them the wolf pups. Everything was organized. Kelly assigned her loot to the bunny mobs, giving them each the opportunity to drop 5 of a single item. Again, she was going quantity over quality here. She figured it would also serve to encourage more visitors to her dungeon. You see, that was the secret of being a dungeon. While yes, killing adventurers would boost your experience the most, you also got a small amount of experience whenever an adventurer stepped foot within your dungeon. On top of that, there was one trick up her sleeve that Kelly knew would really help her rise to the top. Adventurers could actually offer a dungeon up a small amount of experience. There were a few instances of this, where some adventurers begged a dungeon to spare their life in exchange for all the experience that adventure had accumulated at that time. Kelly wasn't going to go through that extreme. Instead, she figured a small fee, perhaps per visit, maybe yearly, would do. And so it was that after a week of planning, with all of her mobs nicely organized and ready for adventurers, her open, inviting dungeon prepped and ready, she created her entrance to the world. A rather inviting set of double doors set in a small house that led to her interior. There, adventurers had 2 options. They could give her 50 experience and step inside, which would allow them to reach the full depths of her dungeon and give them the opportunity to free farm as they saw fit. Or they could enter for free, but only receive 10 minutes of time in her dungeon before they had to leave. Spoiler alert, after they experienced their free 10 minutes, they always came back to pay her daily experience fee. The end. All right, chat. I will be back in, like I said, just a few moments. And then we will start the next 10-minute timer, and I will be free to answer questions. Feel free to chat about the story in chat, and I'll see you all soon. All right, I am back, chat. Let's close this one out. Move that off the screen for now. Refresh this so we're back at 0. And we will reset our 10-minute timer. If you have any requests, please get them in. We currently have 5 requests on our ever-growing request list. We have done 2 stories so far. How would the world recover from Dungeon Core caused inflation? Uh, hey, that's not Kelly's problem. That's the problem for the rest of the world. I was like, Kelly is just interested in her own growth. The rest of the world can deal with the inflation. And again, still working with my Buffalo Trace bourbon here. It's such a good drink. More or less, yeah. The higher quality items you have to pay an extended membership for. Supply and demand. And really, when you think about it, the supply and demand that Kelly's working with, once again, isn't, her items. Her supply and demand is she's trying to gain more experience than all of the other dungeons. So if she's just pulling all of the adventurers away from all the other dungeons and getting all the experience for herself, that's great for her. The human world is not of importance to Kelly. Kelly is just there to grow as a dungeon in the fictional world of Kelly that we created in the span of 20 minutes. Huzzah, writing sprints. Sounds like a chaos worshiper. Chaos! You wrote Buffalo Trace and or go to B plus. SCPs. All right, I am pulling a blank on that acronym. You're probably going to spell it out. I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. But I, right now, am pulling a blank on SCP. And like I said, I'm going to hate it because you're going to put what SCP means. And I'm going to be like, oh, yeah, that totally makes sense. I already knew what that was. Mostly bookers and things like that. So that aged stuff. Secure, contain. Wait, what? Is that Google? Oh, okay. I actually have never heard of that. I don't know how. I've never heard of that, but creative writing websites. All the S. Yeah, wow. Yeah, I've never heard of or seen the SCP thing. That's strange. Anything Groundhog's Day themed. Oh, that's where it just keeps going over and over, huh? Groundhog's Day, we will add it to the prompts list. Groundhog's Day, something, probably NPC related. And that was requested by somebody from the Discord chat, I am guessing. Considering fell. You know, and this is why I'm like confused that that I haven't heard of SCPs before, because I watch a shit ton of like all sorts of crazy conspiracy stuff. And I've read creepypasta. I've wrote some things that could be considered creepypasta. And yet, yep, somehow. Welcome, Andrew. I don't know. Is this so, Kelly? I saw in the Discord you were trying to get into Twitch. Oh, have I been messaged? I've been messaged. Just wondering something. I read you have served any of them from another country. Like if you want to Yep. See, there we go. Yeah. See, like Warehouse 13, loved the show. Men in Black, great. I love X Files. It's creepy pasta and not creepy pasta. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I was getting that they were just throwing the creepy pasta as the examples. But yeah, like yeah, I at my missile job I actually bought a I Want to Believe poster, um, that I hung up in the office to everybody's amusement. And you can ping me on Discord. I mean, we have about a minute and a half before we will have to start writing our third story of the night. Holy hell, guys. It's not even been 2 hours and we have written 2,000 words worth of short stories out of fucking nowhere. Good job, team. We got this, fam. Oh, all right. I will watch that later, Spirit, because obviously right now I am slightly committed. quest. Humans hide from the world. Reset that. It is a set. It is containment of all creatures, some good, some bad, some dangerous, some immoral. Alright, so we will, I will add that human-based SCP humans from the world. So in case if it gets selected, I'm going to ask you a little more crowing detail just for story's sake so that we can try to actually give it a little more life, because this is one of those strange times where I'm not 100% familiar with it, and so I want to at least get a better sense of where we want the story or what type of story we're truly looking for in order to go. But that's only if we get it. So we will bring everybody's favorite screen back over here real quick. So our story opportunities this time around are The Horny Scrat from Terran M, Old Farm Ox that gets into some bourbon one day from 1-2 Blue, who sadly I think might have gone to bed, which is a bummer time zone thing. Once again, and I don't know if I can link this on my channel. Oh, hey, you're still up, but soon. Okay, worst case scenario, if for some reason you go to sleep but yours does get selected, like I said, I am going to hang these onto my this is the only time that works because the wife's at work, so it gives me this nice open 3 hour long window to fully interact with everybody uninterrupted or anything like that. But once again, all of these stories will be going up on my Patreon, and at least for now, they will not be behind a paywall at all. I'm not sure if I want to put them behind like a $1 tier type thing of being like, hey, if you joined the chat and you were here for the experience, it was free. But now they're up on Patreon. I don't edit until a story is actually done, ever. Like Bone Dungeon, Infernal Bones. Yeah, I didn't edit that shit until it was done, and then it was like 142,000 words of editing, and I hated life. But yeah. Anyways, my Patreon account for anyone curious, and once again, if for some reason you miss stories or you want to see what other stories came out of it, is Glyax, Glyax. That's it. I use the same username pretty much everywhere. I am usually in Discord while I'm editing. Yes, you're not wrong. Hey, fun fact, this dice rolling thing, it's got a number of sides because it's digital and it can do that. But like I said, next week I will have my actual set of dice with me so we can have some fun, maybe hear some clattering as I roll dice to figure out what our options are. But again, Horny Scrat, Old Farm Ox that gets into some bourbon one day, which would be a poem, Bladesmith's Regret, Stuck Up California Girl Dungeon Core, a party with Mothman entering a light bulb dungeon by mistake, Something Something Groundhog's Day, or human-based SCP, which we might need some extra content on to start beforehand. Number of dice to roll, 1. Number of rolls, 1. Here we go. Drum roll, please. Ooh, Diablo dice. Those are spiffy. Number 3, Bladesmith's Regret from Lighthouse is the lucky winner this time around. All right, so that is 3 words. So we can have this go up to 1,003 words. Double check everything. It is 7:46. We are good to go. Have you guys been able to read it as it goes along? Is that font good enough for you guys? I know my face on the side starts to cover it. You should really just do every ID and only stop stream when you are done. Oh dear God. Yeah, I don't have that type of time, sadly. And I'm only human. I don't know how many of these stories I can keep cranking out like this, especially considering I did write in Bone Dungeon 3 earlier today as actual work. And um, do it while Rue stream. She would kill me because of how loud my keyboard is. Sleep is overrated. Sleep is for the weak. All right, let's get that there. Let's get all of this set up here. Poetry. You're nice. I appreciate that. I don't know if you guys noticed. I might not have done too well with it, but I was trying to give a different voice to the last story than I had the first story, like me reading it wise. I mean, writing wise as well. I wrote one in first person, one in third person. But that aside, I was trying to give a little more voice and character to each of the stories. Otherwise, I could read them in a radio DJ style voice the next time around. Um, but yeah, the wife does say that she likes hearing my voice when I read stuff out loud. I just don't read out loud very often. Overly, God no. So I could try a teeny voice. The only issue is the my time in the Marines like super messed up my vocal cords. So it's like really hard for me to get super high now. Like it doesn't work. I don't know if there's like scar tissue there that's just like screwing it up or what, but yeah, the Marine Corps messed up my vocal cords. And that's obviously from like lots of screaming and everything, but for those of you in the Navy or other branches, I get it. We can throw in some jokes there about why my vocal cords might have been ruined in the Marine Corps. Ha. Were you, were you drill sergeant? I was not. I actually don't like yelling at all. I went the more psychological route on people of the whole I'm not upset, but I'm disappointed type mindset. Ate too many crayons, yeah. The crowns coated my lungs. But in boot camp, there is a shit ton of yelling that goes on to the point where like you're hoarse and everything, and then you're still yelling past that, and it just really messes up your vocal cords. Let's see. We are gonna restart this song here. Here is where my playlist is. I don't know if, like I said, I don't know if you guys have been German pirate band. And there's one line that goes, "Come to the Navy, we don't have." I don't know if you guys are actually listening to the playlist along with me. You're not, you're not expected to, especially because every week it's going to be the exact same playlist because that's my writing playlist. And psychology is awesome. Oh, I can make this one actually not like a lit RPG type thing. Or I could. Or I couldn't. Oh man, where do I want to go with this one? Anyways, I'm going to start the song and then we shall get going because as long as I make some good time on this one, we should have at least enough time for one more story. Screw planning. Yeah, I don't really plan. Yeah, I'm allowed. Like, were you not reading my rules? Anything. I was willing to write anything, which included poetry. Oh, smartass. I don't think you should be allowed. No, you are limited. Just Dungeon Core. Portal has entered the chat. Portal was here earlier. Thank you very much. Testing. Okay. Sorry, my mic died momentarily. Um, yeah, the mic died, so I had to plug it in. Um, it's a good mic, but for some reason my battery life has started to fade on it. Happens with time, I suppose. Alrighty then, I'm starting my music and I'm going to write the next story titled Bladesmith's Regret. Ooh, I know how I want to make this one go. Oh, but now I gotta adjust this. Headphones. uh, Alrighty then, fam. We have done it again. Are you guys excited to hear the latest story titled Bladesmith's Regret, prompted by Lighthouse? All right. So this one does come in at 985 words. And it does look like timeline-wise, we will have probably enough time for one more prompt, if not two. I did just finish my glass of Buffalo Trace. So after I read this, I'm going to go pour myself a little of my cheaper bourbon, just because the Buffalo Trace is just for special occasions, and I don't need to drink more of that tonight. The next time I will drink my Buffalo Trace will probably be on my birthday. But enough of that aside, here is Bladesmith's Regret. Kill, keep everything living. It was the motto he had running at his shop, or at least it was the motto he used to have when he had his shop. Every blade he forged he would test. Every weapon that left his shop needed to pass his tests. His customers loved it when he handed them their blade, telling them, "It will kill." That was the motto. He didn't forge weapons for death. He forged weapons meant to keep their wielders alive, and through them, the people they were fighting to protect. It was a profession as old as time, and one that had nearly died out a century ago. However, that was before the invasion, when the rift had opened in the world, funneling in the forces of evil that threatened to overthrow mankind. They were impervious to bullets. However, it was found weapons forged from a strange material, collected only from the land beyond the portal, could kill these foul forces. The quantity and quality were important, though, and a devil needed to be slain with at least 3 inches of the strange metal, called Damascus, before it would fall, which meant you needed either a really big gun or a bladed weapon forged from Damascus. Fighting demons fell to the people who had been touched by the powers of the other world. The mystical energy flowing from the portal twisted people, giving them enhanced physical attributes and a few magical ones as well. These were called adepts, and they worked to push the evil forces back, armed with weapons forged by those who were capable enough to forge Damascus, which was no small feat. While masters of the craft could work the metal into usable shapes, only those who had gone to the other side and survived the journey back, Damascus in hand, could truly forge weapons that would later become known as legendary. The sword Excalibur was one such weapon, a blade that seemed to have been imbued by supernatural powers. Its Damascus blade crackled with energy as it enhanced the already impressive features of its wielder, an adept named Arthur. That sword was forged by his father's father, and it had become a family tradition of the Pendragons to forge weapons of such renown. So, William Pendragon had been proud to take over the mantle of bladesmith. To forge the weapons would arm the next generation of adepts in the never-ending world to keep the human race safe. Never-ending war. Oh man. I'm only human, guys. He completed his trial at 16, following his father into the other world, narrowly escaping, even with their contingent of 6 adepts, with their Hall of Damascus. He forged his weapons, and for a decade after, he found he was putting out quality work. His blades weren't quite legendary, but they were above average. William found himself flooded with requests, and soon the supply was dwarfed by the demand, which meant more trips were needed into the other world, more materials were needed, and more lives were lost in order to harvest the Damascus needed for these wonderful weapons he was creating. 10 more years passed, and the battle that was raging against the enemy forces had come to a standstill. The legends of old had passed, their weapons faded into memory, used and abused beyond repair. At that time, countless bladesmiths had fallen, and many adepts had lost their lives in the war against the invaders. The same could be said for the other side as well, and an agreement was reached by both, one final fight to determine the outcome of both worlds. William was selected to forge the final weapon, with the last of the Damascus that had been harvested from the other plane. He gladly accepted the task, knowing with his weapon he would be able to end the world. The human adept had been already selected to champion their race, the grandson of Arthur who once wielded Excalibur. It was a match seemingly made by fate. William spent every waking moment of his time working on the Damascus he had been given. He was meticulous in his work, trying to ensure every little detail was right. However, as he forged day in and day out, he felt the strain begin to take hold. Working the forge was not an easy task, and as he labored on, he could feel himself growing tired. His hammer swings were not as strong as he wished them to be, meaning he needed to put more stresses on the metal by heating it over and over. By the end of the week, he found himself fighting with his tools in order to craft the weapon he wanted. Perhaps he had placed too high an expectation on himself. He had been working with that final build of Damascus to create a replica of Excalibur, to copy the weapon his grandfather had crafted. In trying to copy his grandfather's work, he lost his own passion, his own style. So when he finished the blade, he realized he had not been able to completely recreate it. The stress, the strain, the exhaustion, and the different forging styles, the minute details had led to the slightest of faults. At that time, though, he had figured that he was just tired, and it was his addled mind. The blade passed all his tests. It would kill. Those were the final words he said to the champion of the humans before he went off to face the invaders' champion. The final words of assurance he had given before that fateful day. The day when, on a battlefield broadcast to the world, William watched his sword, clutched confidently in the hands of mankind's champion, shatter against the enemy's shield. The moment the sword, forged by William, doomed mankind to enslavement. The moment his sword, the final sword forged by human hands, became known as Bladesmith's Regret. The end. I am going to go pour myself a little more bourbon. Like I said, it's not going to be Buffalo Trace, unfortunately, but I am going to pour myself a little, and I will be right back. Feel free to discuss the latest story. For those of you that are tuned in and have to get going, thanks again for tuning in on this first Books and Bourbon experience. I will be having it again next week. This is something I'm planning to do weekly, um, every Thursday night, 6 p.m. to 9 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time. So tune in if you can. We will start new requests every week. So obviously, if you tune in early, you might be able to get your request in, because obviously the fewer requests there are, the higher the chance that your request gets rolled. Like I said, I'm going to step away for a moment to go grab more bourbon. When I come back, we will start that 10-minute timer again. I will answer some more questions, and it looks like we will have enough time for one more story, which I hope you guys have been enjoying these stories I've been putting out so far. That is now 3,000 words of random stories prompted by all of you. I'll be right back. All right, and I am back. Let's minimize this again. We'll move this off to the side for now. Bladesmith's Regret was written. Let's start our countdown timer again. So once again, I am open to questions, requests, chatting, whatever you guys want for the next 10 minutes. I am more or less happy to oblige. I do apologize if the quality or content of the stories feels like it's going down. I feel like we all kind of expected that the more liquor I consumed, there would be some sort of impairment, at least on the writing. Once again, even though Fel is insisting that it means I'm a robot, I am not. I am just a simple man trying to create stories for everyone, and I figured this would just be a fun way to do it. And also, yeah, she's do androids dream is Fel. Yep, totally outed her right there. But I felt like this would just be a fun way to interact with everybody, and also I suppose a way for weird stories to get created. I mean, I know it's always fun when people sit around and they're like, it'd be a great story idea, and then you come up with a prompt, but nothing ever actually really happens with it. Well, I am now your guinea pig. So you guys get to request the stuff, and we get to try to make it happen. And the story that comes out is a surprise to everyone because I have no idea where I'm going with these when I start writing. I just kind of start clickety clacking, and what happens, happens. Da, da, da. And hopefully, if you guys are enjoying this, like I said, I plan to do this every Thursday. Um, if you guys want to, story prompt: werewolf allergic to his own. Oh God, that's terrible. Why would you do something like that? Like, why that? That's just fucked up. Werewolf allergic to own hair. Okay, okay, that's added to the list. It is there. It is on the list. But yeah, this is just something that I'm going to do every week, and hopefully, with it being on a structured schedule, we can try to, get more people to join. It would be really cool if we could grow a weekly, community of people coming out here, chatting, hanging out, um, and just coming up with crazy stories that I get to share with all of you. And then too, the more people that are in here, you guys can actually like chat with each other and hang out while I write the stories, because I'm sure the what is it, like 20 or 30 minutes it takes me to do the 1,000 words is kind of awkward, and it's just me sitting here clicking on a keyboard. Although it's the sound of a mechanical keyboard, which is totally rather soothing in my opinion, but that's just me. And I'm gonna check. I have 6 messages. I have 6 pings on Discord. What the hell, guys? What are these? Oh, they're messages. Okay, never mind. They stomped my ass. Can anyone beat this? Oh, my guild's in a guild war, Dawn. 200. Scheiße. No, that was. What do you mean that's 5 messages? No, okay. Okay, that one's there. feel like you should write an anime story. Just need the right idea for it. Yeah, that is Japanese high school through. Fun fact. For those of you that know Bone Dungeon, the original opening for it, because of my love of anime, was actually going to be Ryan like running into a bathhouse because he heard somebody screaming for help, and then seeing like some girls like shying away from a spider, and then they all like stare at him and he's coming there, and then they chase him out of the bathhouse and call him a perv and all that jazz, and then he gets like killed for it by the fanatics of the church because I felt like that was an extremely anime-esque thing to do. Uh, but obviously that did not end up being the original opening of the opening of Bone Dungeon. Demon girl trying to pass herself off as a human. Yeah, I thought it was funny, but as a first-time author, it was probably not the wisest attempts at an opening. Kind of needed to make sure I didn't get in trouble with the masses right off the bat. Yes, right. I know it was. Yeah, it was definitely showing my love of anime right there. Which I feel like DCO definitely gets a lot more of my anime shenanigans in it. Although I do still give shout outs to anime in Infernal Bones and Bone Dungeon. Infernal Bones, I mean, come on, I even have Jack asking at one time, "You mean it's wrong to pick up chicks in a dungeon?" Ha. Uh, high school student suddenly matures into a succubus. Okay, so we will add that to our prompt list. We currently have 8 prompts on our prompt list. We will see what ends up being our final story of the night. Because, yes, anime RNGesus. Oh, good old RNG is. We are currently at 8. We're not quite there yet, though. I mean, if you missed my recent stream with Sound Booth Theater where they were doing a reading from Infernal Bones, I did openly admit that any time in any of my stories you see the dungeon or the fairy or somebody making a comment that's like insulting something, like with the dungeon being terrible at naming mobs, and he's like, I'm suck at this, I need help naming mobs. That is me cracking jokes at myself, like me coming up with these mob names and being like, oh my god, this is so terrible, like you suck at this, you really need to stop making mob names. And then I just go with it, and that's how we end up with some really crazy weird shit. Though I will stand by the fact that Dickens for demonic chickens is great, and sacrificial lambs for kamikaze sheep, best idea ever. Oh, also fun fact, Buttercup was originally going to be named Bambi, but Disney. This is where you guys get fun little behind the scenes author tidbits too. Yes, DCO names are better than Bone Dungeon names. That is because DCO is me not giving any flying fucks about things. DCO is me just literally taking all the weird, random craziness that comes into my mind, putting it onto a story, and being like, well, that just happened. Mini Steve was great. If you haven't, go to Facebook. I've posted links in my Discord. They've got another poll up on Sound Booth Theater. If Mini Steve gets enough votes, I will be on Sound Booth Theater again with Jeff shortly for the Mini Steve fight, but it won't get there without votes. That is also a common sentiment, actually, that a lot of people like DCO better than Bone Dungeon. which I definitely can understand. I feel like DCO is a lot more polarizing though. You either love it or you hate it. There's not a like in between. The amount of negative commentary and like backlash I get on DCO is a lot higher than I do on Bone Dungeon. So Bone Dungeon is more like mild, so people like it or they love it or they kind of dislike it, but nobody's like blatantly, oh my god, this is the worst thing ever, and like telling me to go jump off a cliff. Whereas DCO, yeah, there are totally times some people are just like, you fucked this story up. You need to stop and go die right now. And I'm just like, oh geez, oh okay, sorry, bye, Felicia. So I poured myself a little extra whiskey. This is my old charter, which is a 80 proof. It was about $25 for 1.5 liters. This is my cheaper daily drinking whiskey. I don't drink daily, but on those nights when I want a little dram or two, this is my go-to because it is affordable and I am not making lots of money. So I cannot have quality bourbon every night, and this is still good. But we are out of time, so let's switch to that dice roller and see what the final story is going to be. And I apologize because this is probably going to. Oh my god, right? At least the light novels go past the anime. Just that's a thing. The light novels do go past the anime. Looking for group. For the record, the old charter still is actually a good bourbon in my opinion. I don't have too much experience with the bourbon just yet, but it's good. Not not great, but it's good. But I did probably pour myself a little too much of the Buffalo Trace just because I was excited to be able to crack open Buffalo Trace again. So apologies in advance for whatever the fuck happens in this next story. I'm only human, and I love bourbon. And that plus writing. This also showcases why I refuse to write the actual stuff that I should be publishing when I drink. I refuse to touch liquor when I write DCO, when I write Dickin' Around, and when I write Bone Dungeon 3, because I do not like publishing. I do not like editing. So I need my stuff to be as clean as possible. Oh, yeah, see, I skipped the last 3 episodes of Black Clover because I did not want to deal with all the filler. Anyways, I digress. I'm easily distracted. It's fun hanging out with people. I'm sorry. I wish I had real friends. So, once again, our story options for the night, which will be our final story. The Horny Scrat. A old farm ox that gets into some bourbon one day, but that will be a poem. California girl a stuck up California girl as a dungeon core. I feel like we kind of did that with Kelly. I skipped the whole thing. Oh, Claymore. I love Claymore. Um, a Groundhog's Day something something, probably NPC related. Human-based SCP, is crowing still in here? Yes. Okay. So once again, if that one gets selected, I'm gonna have a few more questions. Werewolf allergic to its own hair. That was Lula. I want more infinite dendrogram, but no coronavirus. And then high school student suddenly matures into a succubus, but still tries to make normal human school. I'm secretly hoping RNGesus goes with number 8. Just saying, the anime talk is real. But here we go. Final roll of the night. 6. Fuck. 4, 5, 6. All right, crowing. We need you. Comment here. Say something. Let us know you are still viewing. I mean, I feel like in theory, could number 6 merge into number 8? Crowing. Basically, humans are so what you're saying, Crowin, is there's a chance. Do we merge it into number 8? Yeah, yeah. Do we want to dual merge these? Is that what's gonna happen? Is that all right? I got Crowing's permission here. I didn't want to like completely take it from you, but at the same time, like, well, one, the bourbon's flowing, and two, it just feels like everybody's kind of excited about this. And by everybody, I mean like the 3 people in chat talking. I'm a DM. This totally happens sometimes. I'm just like, oh, the SP Foundation trying to contain the anomalous creatures, human-based as humans hiding from the world. Prompt high school student. Alrighty then. Let's merge this one together. Talking mushrooms. Oh, this is gonna be bad, guys. Like, I can already feel it. I don't know how well this is gonna go, mainly because bourbon. But it's great. That is what this was designed for. You guys can take advantage of an author as he drinks. Wait, before I start this. Here is where my playlist is at. It is actually currently farther than it normally gets because I actually generally stop writing around the 2-hour mark. That is where my playlist is currently sitting at, which Radioactive with Lindsey Sterling and Pentatonics is amazing. I love Pentatonics. I love Lindsey Sterling. The two of them combined is so great. Prompt would be high school student suddenly matures into a succubus but still tries to make normal school, working for 2 hours at a time. I should be giving Once again, first off, I do not make that much money. I cannot pay my bills. This is not bueno. Second, apparently I write quickly compared to other people. So normal people don't manage to get as much done in 2 hours as I do. Third, editing sucks. Fourth, readers can be very, very picky. Fair warning. Fifth, I still can't pay my bills. All right, guys. I'm going to take a drink. I'm going to push play. And the final story of the and my microphone died again. It's seriously having some trouble. RIP. Yes, my mic is dying. It's sad. It's a really good mic too. It's just I've had it for 2 years now, 3 years now, so it's kind of starting to have some issues. It's an Arctis. Wait, maybe I've had it for 3 years now, 3 or 4. Uh, Great headset, really, but everything with electronics, batteries age over time. Anyways, do 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 suck you, bis do 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 do. Alrighty, fam. Save. Crap. This is it. This is the final story of the night. I will read this for you all. It did break just a little. Do you watch Kaiseron? What is Kaiseron? I do not. So it is 1,102 words, putting it at the longest story of the night and just barely breaking flash fiction standards. Um, my apologies. I did my best, but there's some stuff I could probably edit out of this to cut out of it. If I was writing this to be actual hardcore flash fiction, I could probably condense it down. I know I'm a little wordy in writing. Well, yeah, I didn't highlight the words at the top, so this is actually 1,102 words without what's at the top. But there are definitely phrases that I could cut out in editing. I I tend to be a little excessive at times, which is ironic considering how short my chapters are already. I try to keep all the extra fluff out of it. Flash is generally anything under 1,000, with people saying that Lovecraft was the originator of flash fiction, which is why I read a shit ton of Lovecraft, and then my first attempt at writing flash fiction was this extremely dark, macabre piece that made people think I was a serial killer. Yeah, good times. Anyways, how about I read the final story of the night, and then we wrap this up with any last minute comments, questions, etc. And then we call it a night. And like I said, I will be back again next Thursday for round 2. So here is the final story of the night, which I think I had a lot of fun with. I hope you guys are going to have a lot of fun with it as well. Oh, fam. So this was a combination of our 2 topics, courtesy of Crowing for allowing us to combine this. Hopefully this kind of met with the request, or at least kind of set up a world with the request. And then the prompt of a high school student suddenly maturing into a succubus, but still tries to make normal human school. People always say that high school is a time for people to discover themselves, the time for individuals to, come into who they are, grow with their friends, and start to really choose what they want to be. It's a time of change, of puberty, of love, of loss, and just all out teen angst. Which is to mean it's a time of a lot of shit already. The last thing I needed was to wake up one day realizing I had an additional thing to worry about. I was a succubus. Imagine my surprise when I go to sleep one night after an intense night of the usual, watching Bachelor, messaging my best friends, and trying to win over either Mike or Jack. They were both hot, and so I didn't really care which one I ended up with, but I wanted at least one. And watching them fight over each other was just fun in general. Plus, that bitch Becky was into Mike, so part of it was just trying to steal him away from her. So yeah, it was pretty much a normal night. The next morning, though, after some amazing dreams, I woke to some rather obvious changes. First, my back really hurt. Like, dropped off the pyramid at cheer practice hurt. Second, it felt like somebody had put an extra weighted blanket atop of me, which, considering I was already under a weighted blanket, made me really confused. Moving that blanket aside, the culprit was obvious. My previously sized C's had grown somehow into double D's. Not complaining about the free breast enlargement, but that kind of shit doesn't happen except in that nerdy anime stuff. I watched it once. It was okay, I guess. Rumor was Jake was into it. The cause for my back pain was much less evident and a lot more alarming. My rather expensive nightgown, a birthday gift, was torn apart. The culprit? Two large, leathery black wings sprouting from my back. I'm pretty sure I passed out then, after screaming loudly, since the next thing I knew my mother was over me, cradling me in her arms and whispering for me to calm down. It's okay, Lily. My name was Lilith, but my parents always shortened it to Lily. I did too. We're going to change that to Mother. I did too. After all, who the hell named their daughter Lilith? It sounded like a demon's name. It's just puberty. I I looked at my mom, to the mirror behind her. The wings were still there, and now a freaking tail seemed to be laying underneath me. I felt the strangest sensation, and it twitched slightly. This was definitely not puberty. Puberty was acne. Puberty was listening to the guys' voices crack and making fun of them. Puberty was finally filling out that bra. Growing wings and a tail was not puberty. What the hell is going on? It. My mom paused, glancing around the room. After a moment, she leaned closer. You're a succubus. I'm a what? I'd heard the term before. It was apparently a sex demon. There was no way. I paused as a thought crossed my mind. Sex demon? Generally, the stories around succubus said they could entice any living thing they desired. Did that mean I could have Mike and Jack? That would totally mess with Becky. I licked my lips as an urge overcame me. Could I seduce Becky too? The thought continued to spiral through a rapidly changing string of thoughts before my mind managed to snap back to reality. There was no way this was happening. This all had to be a dream. There was no such thing as demons. You're a succubus. Your father is an incubus. My mother paused, her eyes going distant. She never talked about my father. Apparently, she'd met him in a bar when she was 18. He had always been a soldier, or more appropriate, a Marine. I always called him a soldier, but my mom would always correct me. Anyways, he was a one night stand with her and then went off and got killed in a war or something, leaving my mother to raise me all on her own. My father died in Afghanistan. My mother shook her head. No, he was captured. The government doesn't allow the existence of unique creatures. He was hunted down and captured. He kept your existence and his relationship with me a secret in order to keep us safe. She leaned even closer. He told me this would happen someday, that there was a chance you would awaken to your demonic nature. I stared at her, my eyes as wide as they possibly could be. There was no way any of this was real. Was this a bad dream? My eyes darted back to the mirror. What the actual fuck? Now my hair had changed from its blonde, which matched my mother's, to a crimson red. Even worse, my eyes were purple. Mom, I whimpered. I was scared. Really scared. How could any of this be happening? My eyes filled with tears and I started to cry. I could feel the fangs growing in my mouth. My mind said this couldn't be real, but everything that was happening definitely was. It's okay. My mother wiped my tears and leaned back. She reached into her bag and pulled out a bracelet. It was a simple, rather uninteresting silver band. As she unclasped it and held it to me, though, I could see some strange, alien looking writing engraved underneath. Your father gave this to me. She placed it over my wrist and clasped it shut. A sudden burst of icy energy flowed through me, and suddenly I was back to my normal self. As long as you have that on, your demonic side will be hidden. My mother paused, her eyes filled with worry. I know it is hard to accept, but you're a succubus, Lilith. She looked down at the bracelet, and while that will contain your demonic features, it won't be able to control who you really are. So I need you to promise me that you will do your best not to draw attention to yourself. I looked at my mother, and then at the bracelet down on my wrist. Absent mindedly, I touched it, even as I glanced longingly down at my suddenly decreased bust size. My mind wandered again uh, to Jack, Mike, and Becky, and the potential my demonic side, if it was true, had. I promise. And that was the day I started living as a secret succubus in the human world. Mocha the vampire. Hey, I know that one. What is it? Rosario plus vampire? Rosario plus. Yes? Yes, you're a vampire. Yeah. Anyways, that is. Whoops, I closed it. Let me open that back up again because I'm going to need the actual final word count. Anyways, so that is the fourth and final story for tonight. I'm going to get us a tally of how many words we did, just to give everybody a kind of number to see, what everybody was associated with. Please feel free to discuss the story. Yep, Revisit Vampire, good stuff. I watch a lot of anime. I actually just finished Andrew. What should the name of that one be? I mean, if you guys want to come up with names with these stories, that's fine by me. I just have them labeled as prompt 1, 2, 3, and 4. Um, that being said, I will give you guys the options, and I will cover it again next week. That there is the option to continue these stories if you guys want. You can always suggest prompt numbers from previous nights to be carried over to have additional stories. Secret Succubus with the be the anime, and that way we can, you guys, well, obviously it's all going to come down to a roll of the dice, but there will always be the option then, if you guys want to wait, save that, to have the chance to continue these stories and see just how crazy and wacky and weird and what the fuck some of these things can become. Um, just getting you guys the final how to hide as a succubus in the human world. 984 plus 984 plus. And the final prompt. I hope you guys had fun. Like, I had a lot of fun doing this. Plus 1100. Final tally. So the new anime have weird sentence names like that. Yeah, I noticed that. Like, I think it's because a lot of them are coming after light novels, and so the light novel trend right now has been for really, really long names, like Overly Cautious Hero, the story of the Overly Cautious Hero. Well, Cautious Hero. Bow Fury. I didn't want to get hurt, so I decided to maximize defense. That time I got reincarnated as a slime. Yeah, see? Yep. But anyways, so grand total of the night for our 3-hour session, taking away the 15, 25, 35, roughly 50 to an hour long. That was me chatting with all of you. We did almost 4,100 words in the span of probably, like I said, 2 hours worth of actual typing, 3 hours worth of us hanging out together. But that's it for the night. I have to hop off the stream, let the dogs out, get ready, for bed, finish off. Well, here's the last of the bourbon. I'm not going to chug it. That would be a sin, but I'm going to take another drink. Whoops. Thanks again for hanging out with me, guys. Um, it was a blast. It is, well, now there's just one sip left, so you're fine. It's not as big of a sin because it's not my Buffalo Trace. It was just my old charter. I will tell the wife you guys say hi. Spread the word about this if you guys can. Post about it, talk about it in Discord, um, and we'll see how it goes next week. I will still be streaming writing Monday through Friday. So if you follow, you'll get a heads up of when I go live. Tomorrow I'll be streaming me writing Dickin' Around because I owe my patrons 2 chapters of Dickin' Around tomorrow. I will also be uploading prompts 1 through 4 onto my Patreon. Once again, that is just Patreon/Glyax. And I will post these for free, so you guys can go there without having to be, supporters in order to read them. If you can, obviously, Patreon support is a big thing. It gets you special access to my Discord. It gets you access to a lot of advanced chapters, and it helps me continue doing what I love, which is writing these stories for all of you guys. That being said, once again, thank you all for coming and having fun with me tonight. It was a blast to just hang out and goof off and write some stories for 3 hours. And I'll chat with you guys all again soon. Thanks. Bye.